Pinstripes Restaurant in North Bethesda set the scene for the League of Women Voters Fall Luncheon. The trending topic was polling.
When we polled the membership, this was something they were very interested in because the media uses the polls so much. And sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not.
The main problem with the polls, at least in the last couple of election cycles, is that we're looking at national polls, but we actually vote on a state-by-state basis.
Sometimes polling is wrong. Why is that? Why wasn't I called? These are questions that people ask, and we wanted to have a chance for someone who conducts polls to answer some of those tougher questions and talk about why it matters that we have the polls, even if they're imperfect measures.
I think it depends who's doing it, but again, they change just almost daily. What one thing or another that happens can influence it pretty rapidly.
Talking about PTSD, the polling profession went through just a self-flagellation after 2016. How could we have been so wrong, right?
Guest speaker Steve Robbie started with a look back at a presidential prediction most pollsters really don't like to talk about.
The mistake in 2016 is that people without college degrees who are white were underrepresented in a lot of the state-by-state polling and some of the national polling in 2016, therefore understating Donald Trump's vote as opposed to Hillary Clinton's vote. There's a profusion of pollsters. The reason that the mountain is growing is because there's about twice as many organizations doing national political polling today as in 2020. There's a lot of good organizations, and then there's others that aren't doing such a careful job nationally. There's a great diversification of methodology. Everybody's experimenting and trying out new stuff, and there's definitely mixed success, right? So we're in this interesting time in polling where there's a lot changing, and so let's all keep that in mind as we look at polls. So one of the things I want to tell you is let's stop worrying so much about the horse race. Who's ahead and who's behind today? Are we all day traders? We've got to, what is wrong with us? It's much more important to try to figure out the context, to help understand what undecided voters are up to, and to kind of figure out the factors that are driving the race. So there's two types of voters that are going to tip this election, and I'm taking this, again, from reading a lot of other people's work over the past week. But there's persuadable voters that we're all scratching our heads about right now. These are people who have a consistent history of voting in past elections and have an intention to vote this time, but they haven't made up their mind. And that's a small number of people, but they exist. And we're all wondering what's going on with them. And then there's the much more important irregular voters. So these are people that are much less consistent voters. Their intentions about voting are unclear, but if they do vote, you kind of know which way they're going to go. They're leaning one direction or another, but they're just low-frequency voters. Both campaigns are really working on these people, as we know. Now think about it. Everybody's question mark this time around is what's going to happen with them.